All right. Welcome back to Inspired Forward, everyone. I'm Dan Trinidad, and I'm really excited for you all to meet my guest today, Ben Chenault. Ben entered the mortgage industry in 1994, and since entering the industry, he's remained one of the top producers in the state of Alabama in both units and volume and has consistently been ranked in the top 1%. He's married, has two daughters, spends time golfing. Love to hear a little bit about that. Welcome, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
You
Excited.
you bet, you bet. So 1994, you got in the business. Tell me a little bit about maybe tell everybody kind of your story of how you started, not necessarily in the business, but in life and how it progressed and how you got in the business because you got in 1994, and if I remember, that wasn't the that was actually our first drop in business from 93 to 94. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in.
Yeah, it's crazy. I got in. I grew up in the real estate business. My father was a pretty decently well-known realtor in the area, and I was originally going to be a financial advisor. And he hooked me up with his lender. And I guess, we didn't have LOAs back then, but I guess that's probably what I would have been considered. And I do remember that drop because I had no idea how to spell mortgage. They said loan officer. I thought they were going to give me a baton or something. I didn't even know what it was. So, more, I guess that's not one of the cool jobs that you think of when you're, growing up. But here I was, in 1994, which, God, it seems like it's yesterday, but I realize now I'm just getting old. But I had no idea what the business was. I do remember, my boss and mentor at that time was like, hey, just call people. Everybody's sitting on, with an interest rate of, 9 and you can give them 6. I mean, you're walking around giving free money. So I did the best I could. I almost quit after about 2 months because it was so crazy. Nobody could train me or teach me anything, and I just wasn't picking it up. So I think about 90 days in is when I finally realized, there's a P in mortgage, and that's a good faith estimate. Remember it was triplicate forms back then, and somebody wants you to give them 5 different scenarios, and you're like, no, I'll give you 3. I'm not writing all that out. So,
Your big old yellow
but
pad and your blue book for calculating interest rates.
yeah, but the interesting thing that happened was during that time, I was still in college, and I was, working. I was going to school. I was originally, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And as all my buddies were graduating college, taking jobs at the power company or something a little safer, I had kind of paid my dues, and I didn't realize it. And I was doing mortgage work kind of part-time. And by the time I graduated school, I was making a pretty good living and realized, wow, this thing could be a lot better than I've even imagined. And so I decided to stay in the industry, and, the rest is history. Turned into a loan officer there, shortly thereafter graduating college, and haven't job hopped a lot, stayed with that company for a while, went to one other until it was bought out. And I guess in 2003, I started my own brokerage and did that out of necessity. And 2009.
What year was that? What year was that?
So that was 2003.
Okay.
I was working for really a larger real estate-owned mortgage company. And we were doing good volume, and lo and behold, the owner of our company became sick and sold out to one of the larger companies. And all of a sudden, I was a bank employee the next day, and I had some people telling me how to do business that didn't understand our market, and decided it's time to take a leap. And my wife encouraged me. I had a young daughter at home at the time, and that was really, really scary. And I'm glad we did.
Yeah, isn't it crazy to think back, the life changes you're going through, and in retrospect, you kind of wonder like, how the heck did I get, you know, managing a relationship at home, having a new young daughter, starting a business, being all commission. Uh, it's so interesting to me to think back like that, because in counseling young loan officers now, you got to you can be a little bit empathetic to their concerns and stress and what kind of advice you're going to give them. So you seem to have managed that well. How far into the being self-employed? So I'm taking you weren't married in college, so you probably got married fairly soon after college.
Yeah, I got married shortly thereafter. We were married in 2000. Had our first daughter, you know, come in, I guess, 2002. And so, you know, the market was going crazy around that time. So yeah, it probably was the dumbest move was to do something like I did, but you know.
But so you were already established then in the mortgage business when you were starting that, your whole family.
Yeah, I was, and I really did it because I didn't feel like anybody at that time in our area was doing it the way that I felt like it needed to be done.
Well, say
Um,
more about that. So
well,
what?
so you know, I had started, I guess, traveling and following and becoming more of a student of the industry. So, you know, I would go to any industry event I could get get tickets to. You know, being in Alabama, you know, luckily a lot of the trends get here last, so I wanted to try to introduce as much as I could. You know, so I was just trying to be a student of the industry. I didn't like a lot of the way that our local banking institutions were handling loans and treating people, and everybody was being treated just like a loan number. And I thought, well, you know, people need to know how much we care, because I really do. And you know, I'm local, and I want to see people at dinner. I want them to say, "That's my mortgage guy," and I want them to know I took care of them. I want them to know that it's not all just about money. Money's more of a byproduct of taking care of people, and we need to have our own way of showing people that. And whether that's using technology, whether that's you know, touching them more during the process, whatever it is, it develops over time, changes over time, but we need to be doing that. And I don't need anybody above me telling me I can't. And I didn't want anybody above me, you know, taking 6 months to tell me I could do something or not change something. And, you know, I'm kind of I guess I'm a rebel kind of at nature. I'm at the core, I'm more of a maverick. And I just didn't like a lot of people telling me how to handle my own business and handle my customers that I was responsible for.
Interesting. And that's when you went out and started your own brokerage?
I did. I went out and started my own brokerage, and really I planned on it just being like myself and a team. And I really didn't want to be a, you know, quote, manager. I don't want to be a boss. Never have wanted to. And then slowly it just, during the whole meltdown, you know, that took place, I guess starting in 2004 or 5, I just had people that we knew said, "Hey, why don't, you know, can I come to work over there?" I didn't really think about it as them coming to work for me. It was just kind of like, well, yeah, I'm doing this. Why can't everybody else do it too? So we just slowly had people reaching out to us saying, "Hey, can I hang my license there?" Sure. And it just became slowly a band of brothers. And, you know, a bunch of us have grown together. We make each other better. And it's, you know, just without trying, just kind of, I got put in this position. This wasn't one that I went out to seek, I guess.
Well, it seems like you're doing a good job with it. So are you currently a mortgage broker or a mortgage banker or employee?
We're a mortgage banker. We're a branch of Fairway Independent Mortgage. We went to Fairway in 2009, so
Nice.
right after the craziness, and I was starting to get concerned about some of the things that I was seeing out there in that world at the time. We had a lot of people. You know, at that time, we were probably doing as a group about 120, 130 million a year. So, you know, good numbers for Alabama. We were definitely one of the largest brokers, but, you know, I had a lot of people I was responsible for and wanted to make sure that everybody was covered. So it was the perfect fit at that time. You know, haven't looked back since. It's been
Nice.
just growing since that time.
Well, Steve Jacobson's a real good leader. He's a friend of mine, and you know, he's one of the more He's just a great. He got some big award yesterday. I just read this morning,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
so
saw that the Vanguard Award.
yeah.
We, our personalities meshed perfect. We're both a little bit of rebels, I guess you could say. So, it was quite a fun ride, but everything's still going great.
That's so awesome. So, tell me a little bit about how your production grew, and in that time, how you grew with it in terms of having it, growing your team and getting them settled, and the process of how you work. It's interesting that when you said when you got into the business in '94 that there really wasn't a position called loan officer assistant, but looking back, that's what you were. That's interesting because I've been telling that story a lot back in the '80s when I got in the business, and I got out of producing because I wanted to grow my company. um, the concept of having an assistant didn't exist, and it's crazy that I didn't think of, hey, let me get some help for my own production. So I just ended up walking away from my own production and growing a business. But in retrospect, I may have done things differently. But so how did you grow your production?
Well, it's interesting. So, not to get too personal, but through the early 2000s, we did quite well, and we were making investments, and you couldn't go wrong on some of the real estate investments, right? But in 2008, 2009, we pretty much lost everything we had. Kind of terrible story. But about lost family, about lost pretty much everything. And at that time, I was spending a lot of my time flipping properties. I was doing development work. I kind of had let the mortgage industry just kind of, sit on the back burner a little bit. I was probably doing 25 million a year with my eyes closed, not even really trying. But my main job was doing all this other stuff that ended up completely falling apart during the collapse.
Like what kind of
So,
stuff?
we were doing real estate developments. We were buying and selling properties along the Alabama and Florida Gulf Coast. We had properties that, we were from Panama City Beach, Florida, to Galveston, Texas. We're working on a high-rise project when Hurricane Katrina hit, and that pretty much killed us. So it was really it was perfect. It was a perfect storm. You had hurricanes hitting the Gulf Coast at the same time. You had, the '08 and '09 real estate debacle and the economy shift. So, it just left us with, wondering where we were and what we're going to do. So it was very interesting times. But through that, the whole mortgage industry piece was still there, and it was still feeding my family. And even though the numbers for the company and for each of our loan officers weren't what they were, it was still a band of brothers. And, we would crawl on each other's shoulder every night, wondering, how much money am I going to have to take out of my 401k plan this month? And, little things like that. But, through that really caused me to completely refocus.
What were the major takeaways or lessons that you got out of it?
I realized I had not ever paid a tax. I had not ever paid a tax on the money that we were bringing in. And when I'm talking about the tax, I had no life lessons that were serious. It was an ego thing, I would say. Everything we touched was turning into money, and everything we were living high on the hog. And I must be pretty smart because, everything we're doing is doing well. So it was a serious life lesson to look back and realize I'm in a spot that I put myself in. And it was I remember I had, my coach at the time was building champions, and he was one that actually made me go tell my wife, hey, we got some problems here.
Wow.
It was a scary time. And, I like to think it was a pivotal point in my life because it really helped me realize, number one, the value of money, number two, the value of other people, and then and the humility piece was something that, you know, I earned the honest way. I mean, you know, realizing that you're not all that, and you know, just makes you appreciate what you have a lot more. So I look at this whole industry and the business side of it as the before 2009 and after, and two different people almost.
It's interesting. I told you my story, and it's kind of the same
Uh-huh.
way for me. There's pre 2008 and there's post 2008, and completely different different animals. Um, so through these challenges, so you already had a team built. How did you, you know, retain them? How did you, you know, coach them through what you were going through, and they were probably going through many of the same challenges? Um, Tell me a little bit about how you know, foster that culture of the team, and you know, how you develop talent.
You know, during that time, I think I faked it.
Yeah.
You know, the mortgage industry was the one positive that I had going on. And, you know, while we were trying to shut other pieces down and move on during that 12-month stint, the mortgage industry was a great safe haven for me. Just to be able to, I mean, I knew it, I understood it. You know, I knew a lot of people here, you know, locally. I had a lot of clients, had a lot of realtors I worked with. So it was a safe place for me. And it's what pulled me out of it. So I don't really think I had to do a lot of coaching. You know, I did have to do a lot of leading by example. It was very easy at that time for most people to get their heads down and say, oh, woe is me. But, you know, it's during that time that I realized this is when we can grow. This is when the market share hits. I still remember.
How long did it take you to come to that realization? Because it's interesting. I did the same thing, but you know, you go through that period of fear, a little bit. I mean, it doesn't show too much, but it's, you know, generating your own, you know, your own energy in the morning, and you know, getting out of bed and walking into the office with that, you know, positive focus in order to, you know, fire the team up and see things as an opportunity as opposed to a collapse.
You know, I don't think it took long. I remember hearing, I think I might butcher his name, Horace Schulte, that was he started the Ritz-Carlton. I remember him telling a story about, you know, someone giving excuses in their Chicago location, and he said, are you telling me that no one stayed at the Four Seasons last night? Are you telling me that no one stayed at anywhere else? And the person said, well, yeah, I know somebody stayed at the Four Seasons last night. And he said, okay, well, there's one person you didn't get. And the point was, you know, it doesn't matter what the economy's doing. It doesn't matter what's going on around you. There's loans out there and people buying houses that we're not getting the deal. So as long as those are out there, then, you know, there's optimism. We got to find a way to get in touch with those people. Let them know we love them. We want to help them.
Wow. Yeah. So that's a big takeaway. That's a huge life lesson. I mean,
Yeah,
wow.
that was big for me. You know, most of my mortgage friends were either getting out, you know, and so, you know, a lot of times we would huddle up and talk about those that were getting out. And it was great for us because it was survival of the fittest at that time. You know, we knew as long as we stayed in it for 12 to 24 months, we were going to gobble up all the market share. And that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting how, you know, you're going along and it seems like it's going to continue forever. You're in that mode of, you know, buying and developing real estate, and like you said, everything you touch turned to gold, and you feel like it's going to last forever. And then when the market went bad in 2008, and real estate was plummeting and portfolios were plummeting, for a while it felt like that was going to be forever. And you know, if you could get, you know, above that cloud and realize when the market collapses, that's when all the opportunity comes. That's when you're buying everything on sale. And in the 31 years that we've been in business as a company, I mean, there's only been two years that we weren't profitable. And in the whole scope of things, people are, are interested in buying real estate or refinance it. We're either in a strong refi market because the economy's bad, or we're in a strong purchase market because the economy's good. And we've been blessed. I had no idea it was going to be the case when I got in.
Yeah, it's been a great ride, that's for sure.
So what are some of your goals? How do you see moving forward? How are you going to continue to grow your business? What are your your secrets?
Well, I don't know if there are any secrets. Yeah, I'm a producing manager.
How many loan
personally,
officers do you have?
total throughout the state, we've got 33 loan officers. We've got 6 different locations. So we're managing 6 different spots. I'm still producing. And it's a constant, I guess, challenge where you're going to focus. And I kind of look at it as seasons. You'll have one season where you focus more on the branch side, and one season you'll focus more on the personal production side.
So give me an idea of how much time in percentage that you spend on your personal production versus
that's a
the
tough
rest.
question there, Dan. Well, it obviously it changes, right? I have a great team, and my team, on the personal production side is really the best. And fortunately, they let me do what I do best, which is, talk to clients, talk to realtors. They handle the loans. Of course, they bring me back if there's a fire. But that was my unique ability was, let me go out there and talk with people and communicate with people, and y'all take care of the business. And, if they can take care of the business, it frees me up, a ton. But I've still got the branch. I've still got, several other branches as well. I think we'll probably close this year somewhere a little over 2,500 loans.
Wow.
For our group. And, that's a lot of loans for the state of Alabama. So we've got a lot of moving parts. I would say that, the thing that we probably did best was hire people that we liked. I mean, that was kind of it. And I tell people up front, if you need a manager, this probably isn't going to be the spot for you. I don't want to be a boss. I don't make me be a boss, because you're not going to like me as a boss. I'm just not a person that I didn't sign up totally for the role. Initially, I just wanted to do loans and knew I was a good loan officer, and people came on board with us.
Well, you must be a good leader too, because you wouldn't have that many people on your team following you if you weren't.
Well, I hope so, but it's group led. So a lot of people say, how do you manage that amount of people? And my answer is I don't. I'm really transparent. I'm overly transparent. Now, I think that the old management style of the manager is supposed to have all the answers and hide behind the curtain and figure out the problems. And, then he comes out of the curtain and tells everybody what they're going to do. I just think that's terrible. I think that being transparent allows you to tell everybody, a current challenge. And we all problem solve it because, 5, 6, 7 heads are a lot better than one, especially when it's mine. I mean, we do everything as a group, and I just don't see it from a top-down type of mentality. That goes on everything. Our marketing plans, we circle the loan officers and say, here's what we're looking at doing for the year. What do y'all think? Where do we need to adjust? This is crazy. I probably shouldn't say this, but we've never adjusted our pricing margins without loan officers agreeing to it and knowing what the reason was. And I think that by doing that, you have all the buy-in. When people feel like they're part of the solution, they don't feel like they're getting sold anything.
Yeah, and I totally agree. That's awesome.
I feel like if you are open and honest with people, you have this one problem and you explain the problem, most people come up with the same solution. And if everybody comes up with that same solution, then there's nothing to be sold, nothing to be bought in. Everybody just rows in the same direction. And
and occasionally they come up with a better solution.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. So, I know a lot of people talk about this open door policy, but the door seems to always be closed. So we truly try to, work with everybody. And like I said, I'm still a loan officer. I mean, I'm out there in the streets with everybody. So I feel the pain too. I'm not sitting up in an ivory tower somewhere or 500 miles away trying to tell you that you need to fill out, your quota form. Matter of fact, if you need to fill out those forms, you probably need to go work somewhere else because this isn't going to be the place.
So each one of your branches, do they have a sales leader or a kind of a person heading up the branch?
They do. I mean, we have, I manage, most of the functions that I would consider operational. I have them, their job is to lead by example. Go do loans, be in your marketplace, represent the company well, and, have your ears open, but don't spend all your time recruiting. When you do the right thing, you're going to attract the right people anyway, and you're not really going to have to go out and recruit.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I want to get a little bit of an understanding. So, because I've experienced this, and I know a lot of people that have as well. You're producing loans, so you know what to do there, and you've got a team of people that help you. I'm assuming a couple assistants or a processor, a marketing assistant, those sorts of people. And you're in a branch, so it's fairly easy to see and maintain relationships with the people inside the branch that you're operating. Where I've found it challenging, and many do, is now how do you take me, the producer, me, the leader of these people that I see most every day, and how do I incorporate that, that same philosophy with 5 other branches and people? How do you do that?
It's a challenge. We have a weekly Zoom meeting that brings us all together. We handle all the closing from here, and we handle all the marketing from our main office as well. So we try to have some consistency in those pieces to continue the communication. But, it's been a big challenge, just because of the distance piece. There's only so much time. And as much as I would love to be visiting in each branch for, every single week, there's just no way to do it. So we have monthly phone calls. We are communicating nonstop. I'm still involved in helping, even on loan level issues. So they all know that I'm busy, but if they call, I'm going to take it. And the fact that I know they know means I should take the call.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact I'm producing, I think, matters a lot because they see the numbers, and people do, they have respect for people's time that have results, and I know if they're calling, they need me.
Yeah, you have all the credibility. Do you go and visit your branches at all, or do you guys all get together with the people?
I do. Not enough. I wish, like I said, I wish I could do it every week, but I can't. It is sporadic. I'm going, next week I'll be going and visiting 2 of them, as far as 3 hours away. But hey, that's good FaceTime. It's good time on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
I can pick up and call a lot of my referral partners.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's fun for me. I like it.
That's great. So let's switch gears for a second. So you're obviously busy. You're obviously killing it in the mortgage business. How do you manage that with spending time with your wife and your children and taking care of your health? How many hours a day would you say you work, and what's your routine?
Obviously it varies, but I have what I call an ideal week. And my ideal week would have me, usually in the gym at 6:45 a.m. I do some CrossFit type activity. You can't look at me and tell, so don't judge me, Dan. But
You're looking young.
it's called Iron Tribe. So ideally, I would be in that gym 6:45 most mornings. Tuesdays, I have a men's Bible study group that I attend, so I usually skip that day. Throughout the day, I try to have at least 1 to 2 hours of proactive, recruiting of new referral partners or taking care of clients. A lot of it depends on how much business we have coming in. I try to be really proactive on the meetings I know that I need. I know I need to have meetings with my key staff. Those hit the calendars first. For example, we have a what I call my Jedi Council meeting every, once a month. We have a scorecard to look and see how we did in each area. We know that's the first Thursday of every month. I know I have a Tuesday morning pipeline meeting. I'm very methodical. If you looked at my calendar, some people would think I'm crazy, but I'm just very methodical and intentional on the things that we do. It's hard juggling, managing a branch, managing an area, and originating. And oh, by the way, I'm still a dad, and I'm still a husband, and I still like to have fun. So you have to be intentional, because it's like I don't remember who said it, but saying yes to something means I've said no to something else. And I want to be home by 6:30, just about every night. I do not want to work 80 hours a week, because one of the life lessons that I walked away with in 2008 is it can be gone so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, everything you work hard for, the money, everything, it can be gone overnight. And that's what happened to me. So I put a different emphasis on it than I used to. I want to be smart with our blessings, but I also want to spend time, with family. I want to, I want to be home at night. I don't want to travel all the time. So my average day, I'm usually trying to be home by 6:30. I've adopted, a time management technique, I guess. I've heard it called integration, where, how do I integrate my business into my life and have it work simultaneously instead of always trying to separate the two. So a good example of that is I live in a little golf cart community, and we have a neighborhood pub. So every Monday at 4:30, I mean my marketing person there. I'm in my neighborhood. We're sitting there having, doing business, having a beverage, and I'm home at 6:30. Every Wednesday night at 4:30, I meet with my operations manager and my head of recruiting.
At the same place? At the same pub?
Same place. Same pub. And, it gets us out of the office, gets us there. It's right next to my house. It's convenient for me. It's convenient for them. We know what happens every Wednesday and every Monday at 4:30. So I know those kind of routines really, turn a lot of people off, but I have to have them. I also found downtime is crucial for me. I have to be able to think at 30,000 feet, not just always be getting drugged back into a loan scenario. So summertimes, I'll take off some time. We have a second home at a local lake. I'll leave on Thursday afternoon, be at the lake house, and I will work from there and get more done there than I can all week. So trying to be extremely intentional. But like I said, every season there's a new focus. Is it the branch? Is it personal production? And personal production can be broken down into 20 different categories. Is it the state? Where is it that we're focusing at the moment? So, it's difficult. I struggled with that for a long time because people told me I couldn't do both. You're going to have to choose, Ben. Are you going to be an originator, or are you going to be a branch manager? Because you can't do both and do them well. And that bothered me for at least a year, and I struggled with which one I wanted to do. And I met a lady named Sarah Middleton. I don't know if you know Sarah or not.
I do.
You know, Sarah and I just were kindred spirits, and she was one of the first people I met that actually did both at a high level.
Yeah.
She said, "You can do this. I'll help you do it. I'll tell you what to do." And she was instrumental in that whole decision. That decision was probably 5 years ago. And since then, I still focus on originating and managing at the same time.
Nice. Wow, Ben, I love it. And when do you play golf?
Whenever I can squeeze it in. What I tell you, with the whole thing of integration, if I could take a realtor out there or financial advisor and I can
Yeah.
consider it work and play at the same time, then hey, that's a win.
Or somebody on your team even.
There's somebody on the team, exactly.
Yeah, I love getting out there too, although it's probably the most frustrating aspect of my life is golf. So it's just the being competitive and not being very good, leads to, all kinds of problems. So anyway, well, Ben, I enjoyed our conversation. How can people get a hold of you if they have questions or would like to get to know you more?
Probably, email benc@fairwaymc.com.
Tell me a little bit about what inspired it and where you're at with it and kind of the whys.
Well, for starters, I don't, I'm not an author. Anybody on my team could tell you that I can't spell. My punctuation is awful. I'm a typical loan officer. But one of the things that always interested me as I started becoming a student of the business was what's making some of these guys tick. And as I came up through the ranks, I started having more friends that were successful in the industry, and several of us would travel together and meet up at events and hang out. Our families would travel together. I really started noticing that there were some common traits that people had, some of the top producers. And it was really not what are they doing, but how they thought. And that really was intriguing to me, because there's plenty of books that tell, ideas on how to go out and get business. But if somebody's not in the right mental state, I don't think it works anyway. So as I started noticing some of these things, becoming more and more curious, I was involved with a strategic coach and a guy named Dan Sullivan. And Dan was big on scorecards. And so I started putting down these, what I consider to be mindsets of top producers. And my original intention was to create a scorecard for me to help identify who could be the next top producer. Who's in the business that there's some gap somewhere, and if we can help them fix that gap, it could help them get to the next level. And how do they think about these certain areas of their life as it relates to their business? Are they competitive? I mean, do they love the industry? All of these things that comprise of a top producer and the different levels. That was the whole aim and goal. Let's build this for us, and when we interview loan originators that want to come on board with us, let's have them take this test and see where they are. Would they be a fit for us? Do they fit more at a bank, or do they fit more at an operation like ours?
Did you go out and interview loan officers, from other companies that you just wanted their knowledge and expertise to share?
Yeah, I did. So I started interviewing a lot of different people, and asking them, what do you think it takes to be a successful loan originator? What do you think are the mental attributes? And, obviously there's things like being well connected. I mean, that matters, right? Living in a good market, that matters. But beyond that, what is it that makes some people tick? Because, you can meet some loan officers that are killing it, and you talk to them and they're like, they're more like an engineer. And then you talk to another person that is bigger than life and a social butterfly, and they're killing it. What traits do those two people have in common? And if you were to flip their cities, take them out, take each one and put them in the other city, they'd probably both be back on top again inside of a year or two. So that was very intriguing to me. And so as I interviewed people, I started writing down different thoughts. These were from different companies, different backgrounds. Some of the coaches, some were CEOs. And, you know, like I said, I'm not an author, so I can't write a long book. I mean, so I just basically put it in here. This is what I discovered.
Wow. How long of a process was it? I mean, you didn't decide to write a book and then gather. You started gathering and realized that there was value there that you could give to people, and you produced a book. How long did that process take?
You know, it probably took me, you know, concentrated probably 6 to 8 months, but it was observations I had been doing for years. I mean, you know, Dan, you've got buddies that are top producers, been doing it for a long time, and you know how they think. You know, so you've got a lot of that background going into it. And you're right, I didn't start off to write a book. I started off to write, you know, some kind of a matrix for myself to help identify who fit in with us. And it was of the suggestion of a couple other people, you ought to just turn that into a book, add the words to it, and there you go.
Wow. So what is the name of your book? And it came out in January. So I do see some small notes here on this that I apologize so much for missing this.
Hey, you know, so the title of the book is The Top 1%, the mindsets top loan officers used that took them from good to great. You know, and there's probably other ways you can put it out there. Probably the easiest thing is on Amazon, but like I said, I don't really consider myself an author. I'm more of an observer, and so the goal wasn't really to go out and sell a lot of books.
What was the practice? Did you get up every morning and write for an hour, or did you just write when you had some time?
Well, neither really. I had already had everything put together, and so I would basically, you know, like I told you, I'm a terrible writer, so I would just, you know, I would record thoughts and got it over to a publisher and let them put it all together. You know, I think you can see in the back, I actually interviewed 2 of my friends, and, you know, that was probably the most challenging part because it's 2 people having a conversation together, and things that sound good don't actually look good on paper. So, you know, I probably butchered Josh Metal's part and Nicole Ruth's, but that was definitely a challenge.
Well, you'll be able to fix it in your second book, and
Yeah,
you are
right.
obviously an author because you produced a book, and not a lot of people do that. That's very, very cool. I'm gonna get it as soon as we get off this. In fact, I'm embarrassed that I didn't ask about it earlier. Well, good. So you can pick up the book on Amazon?
Yeah, you can. You can pick it up on Amazon.
I'm all over it. Well, Ben, thank you so much for your time today. And I enjoyed the conversation and getting to know you, and look forward to getting to know you more in the future.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you having me on.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.